Good evening. I call the July 24th, 2025 meeting of the Park Hill Board of Education to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for silencing your phones during tonight's meeting. I would like to remind the board of our norms. Stay in the role of a board member, be respectful, be inclusive, be prepared, and be mission driven. And the reminder of our school district mission statement is through the expertise of an engaged staff, the Park Hill School District provides a relevant education in a safe, caring environment to prepare each student for success in life. Board members, any announcements this evening? Ms. Barnes.
Good evening. I just want to say, as everyone's enjoying their summer vacation, just thank you to all the staff and workers who are getting our buildings together and prepared and with new and exciting things for our students and staff to experience on the first day of school. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Mrs. Woodley.
I would just echo what Ms. Barnes said. Just thank you to all of our staff.
Yeah, tonight we got to tour some of the new facilities, at least at the high school level, and it's really coming together. And it's going to be exciting times when students get to use those going back into the new school year. Mr. Todd?
None tonight, thank you.
Ms. Boland?
None tonight, thank you.
Mr. Monseth?
None, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Kimbrell, are there any additional announcements?
Yes, I do have these since we are here at the end of July and summer is going quickly. We have some upcoming dates that are right around the corner. So our new teachers come back or come to Park Hill starting on August 4th. And then shortly thereafter, we start our freshman and sixth grade orientation. So those are on the 7th of August, middle school open house on the 13th of August, and elementary school back to school night is the 14th. So those are within the next couple of weeks, and we look forward to welcoming everybody back for the 25-26 school year. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kimbrell. All right, we'll move on to item 2 for tonight, which is the adoption of the agenda. I'll need a motion and a second to adopt the July 24th, 2025 agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Todd and a second by Ms. Barnes to adopt the agenda as presented. Dr. Kimbrell, are there any modifications?
None tonight.
Board, do you have any modifications? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, item 3 tonight is a notice of a board member resignation. On July 21st, 2025, Mrs. Barber provided a notice to the board that she would wish to resign from the Park Hill Board of Education. Mrs. Barber's term was scheduled to expire in April of 2026. This announcement to the board officially opens a vacancy and allows for the board to begin filling that vacancy. The board would like to take this time to thank Ms. Barber for her service to the community, our school district, and public education. We would like to encourage anyone interested in serving on the board to apply. Applications will be available to pick up at district office, on the district website, or by emailing the board secretary at boardsecretary, all one word, at parkhill.k12.mo.us. Right. Item 4 tonight is public comments. During this part of our agenda, we will receive public comments from patrons who pre-registered by the noon deadline today. We had 0 patrons pre-register. All right, next up is the consent agenda, item 5.1. Before I call for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, are there any items that need highlighted? Dr. Kimbrell?
Yes, I'd like to highlight one item that we are asking to waive a first read. This would be the first time that it is in front of the board. It's item 5.22, which is the approval for the alternative methods of instruction AMI application. we learned that DESE has changed their form this year. And so when we were going through that process this summer, which is an annual process to apply to make sure that we get our appropriate AMI days when we have inclement weather or other needs during the school year, that now on that form is a requirement for board approval. The date that we have to have that submitted by is July 31st, and so we're bringing it to you tonight in consent, asking for your approval there. Another reminder on AMI that's a little bit different than last year is that we have added an additional day that's available to us. So this year we would have 6 available if needed for inclement weather and other needs. That change happened a couple months ago with the calendar as well that was brought to you. So other than that, I have no other information. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Board, any questions? Okay. Then I'll need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, items 5.2 through 5.22 as submitted.
So moved. Second.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Bowen and a second by Mrs. Woodley to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Any further discussion, board? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstains? Okay, motion carries 6-0. All right, we'll now move on to our action items for this evening. 7.1 is the architecture services for the 2025 bond work, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Kimbrell and Dr. Fry.
Yeah, we have no additional information at this time. Just a reminder that on the 26th of June, and at that board meeting, you had a information item presented to you that was recommending Hollis & Miller for our upcoming bond work and those design projects that are going to begin right away. And so we are bringing that back to you tonight for approval. Myself or Dr. Fryatt, who led that process, would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, seeing no questions, I'll need a motion and a second to approve the architecture services for the 2025 bond work as submitted.
So moved.
Seconded.
I have a motion from Ms. Bowen and a second by Mr. Todd to approve the architecture services for 2025 bond work as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, our next item is 7.2, approval of extra duty pay riders. Dr. Kimball.
Again, we have no additional information on this one. This is an annual process. This is probably the longest list that we have in front of you for the year, but these come back to you on a regular basis as we need to add those. But I'd be happy to answer any questions with this particular item.
All right, seeing none, I'll need a motion and a second to approve the extra duty pay riders as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Bowen and a second by Ms. Barnes to approve the extra duty pay riders as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained?
I abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. All right, motion carries 5-0, excuse me. All right, we have one information presentation tonight. It's item 8.1, and it's around the 2025 tax rate. Dr. Kimbrell and Dr. Kelly.
Thank you. Before I turn this over to Dr. Kelly to provide our update, remember last month the Board of Education approved our 25-26 budget for the upcoming school year. We used a conservative 3% growth based on the assessed valuation estimates that we had at that time, and we talked through some of that. We will continue to explain some of that tonight and where we are. We've received additional information from the county, and Dr. Kelly is going to provide that information on what we know now, the next steps that we will need to do. And all of this is working toward the statutory requirement that you have as a board to set a tax rate by September 1. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Kelly for our information presentation tonight.
Thank you. As Dr. Kimbrell mentioned, you approved the budget at our last meeting in June, and so that went into effect in July. And so really the last formal action that you take that addresses that budget is this, which is the approval of the tax rate, which will bring to you a recommendation at our August meeting. And so this information presentation tonight is just to give you some background on what we'll be working on over the next month to bring a recommendation to you for that tax rate and what it's based on. As you know, the formation of the budget addresses our systems goal primarily around maximizing financial resources. And so the setting of the tax rate is a key item, perhaps the most important item, simply because in Park Hill, so much of our revenue is dependent on property tax. And so it is the single largest driver of the budget is the tax rate. And so this flow chart, which you've seen before in the different budget presentations, we're right here in August. After you set that, we're in July, but in August, when you do set that tax rate, we will then kind of shift gears into preparing for next year's budget based upon the information we have. And so again, that setting of the tax rate is basically the last item for fiscal year 26, and then we'll shift gears in September. So this slide does not yet present what we're going to bring to you next month, but this is more of a history, a 10-year history of where we've been in our tax rate. And so that 539.55 is the sum of two pieces, two different tax rates for two different purposes. The orange bar on this graph represents the operating levy, and then the turquoise blue represents the debt service levy. And so the board has committed to the taxpayer in these years to maintain that 539.55, which has allowed us to kind of move that bar around a little bit, but just stay at 539.55. What the voters did last April was something that has not happened since 2002, which was pass an operating levy increase. And so you well remember the operating levy increase. It was very explicit within the ballot language that what was being asked for in that operating levy to fund competitive salaries for all staff, that it would result in a 10-cent increase in the operating levy. So that orange bar, the voters have approved for that ceiling to increase by 10 cents. And the estimate at that point was to move from 483 to 493. And so that will actually be our recommendation based upon the voters' approval. The debt service levy was also a little different. We have gone to the voters multiple times since 2002 for debt service and the sale of bonds. Those were all for no tax increase. So this was actually also something that has not taken place in many, many, many years, which would be a tax increase that would fund additional debt. And so this is to fund the Park Hill 2034 plan. And that was expressed to the voters that would estimated increase the debt service levy from 56 cents to 86 cents. And so using those new values, this is what that graph would look like in terms of the history. The 10 cents in Proposition G, the 30 cents in Proposition O is a 40-cent tax increase. And so what we will bring you in August will be the 579.55 will be the total of those two. And we'll be working on kind of what the numbers will be between the two, but it will be no higher than 579.55. So how the tax levy generates revenue basically is by taking that tax rate times the assessed valuation in Platte County, but more specifically in the Park Hill School District portion of Platte County. We are 100% in Platte County, so we're not dealing with multiple counties and county assessors, but the assessor actually does the work of providing our assessed valuation, the total assessed valuation for Park Hill. And this graph has two bars similar to our tax rate, but not to be confused. You multiply our tax rate times this assessed valuation. You do a little bit of math and divide it by 100, and you would come up with our revenue. And so this component, this assessed valuation, is a major component in which drives revenue and property tax. This is a 10-year history, and these bars obviously have increased over the years. What you really can't see is that in these years that start with an odd number, these are much larger jumps from the prior year, and that's due to reassessment. And so I've got a slide coming up here that will kind of just extract the reassessment years and kind of show this in a better way. But what was sent to us about 3 weeks ago was an estimate of what the assessed valuations are. And so this is before the Board of Equalization has had an opportunity to review the appeals for individuals' tax bills. But at that point, before the Board of Equalization, our assessed valuation total would go up to 2.47. The blue and the red bar represent, the blue is real estate property, and the red is personal property. And so reassessment really only applies to the blue bar. And so the red bar is independent. There is no reassessment on personal property. And so the graphs that I have in moving forward to show the impact of reassessment this year and how it's different from prior reassessments is really only going to focus on the blue bar. So overall, if you were to extract out the last 5 reassessment years, so this basically takes us even number years out, we are standing at a 3.4% increase before the Board of Equalization has done their work. In the 4 prior reassessment years, that you can see the values in terms of what those increases were. So this is significantly less than the last series of reassessments. Dr. Kimbrell mentioned that we went through in the budgeting process all the way from January, putting into a number that started really at 5%. If you were to take the average of these, it's 7.4% in terms of what reassessment typically generates in terms of new assessed valuation. And so conservatively, for preparation of this year's budget, we were plugging in a conservative 5. We got information from the assessor, as you know, last month, that they were going to do things a little differently. And so then we narrowed that down to 3%, as Dr. Kimbrell mentioned. And so that 3% is, this is the number that it ultimately ended up before the Board of Equalization. So we ultimately, the numbers in the budget that you approved were based upon a 3% growth, and this actually results currently at 3.4, and that's before the Board of Equalization. So these are not certified numbers, but they are the numbers that we have for right now, and we'll get the certified numbers here in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Dr. Kelly?
Yeah.
So that 3.4, so it can only go down from here, right? Because
I think
the Board
so.
of Equalization is, they're hearing like, what's the word? They're protests of so it can only go down from here, right?
That is generally true.
Okay.
I think assessments, though, are pretty dynamic, and so you could actually get other property added between. Okay. So there are some things that could be driving it upward as well, but nobody's protesting to get their taxes higher, and so it can only basically go down. So,
and then you mentioned the assessor didn't notify us. We kind of found out behind the scenes, and there still has been no official statement from the. We found out. We asked to have a meeting with the assessor, but there still has been no public announcement of why this is happening.
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And this is even when Platte County has been undervalued already, right? We're, what was it, 81% of 100% of the total value of the county?
With the range, and that was based on 2023 numbers, and the range would be 90 to 110% typically across the state, and we were at 81, which is what you just mentioned. So 2 years ago, we were undervalued, and so this, I think your point being is that this isn't really contributing to that problem at all. In fact, we may be going backwards. Yeah. So this next slide actually does the job of extracting the personal property. And so if you were to look at just the what reassessment in terms of the value that's added in these reassessment years, you can see that it's even a starker contrast here between what happened this year's reassessment versus the prior 4 years. And so generally speaking, and during a reassessment year, just using history, just reassessment alone would have generated 7.2% increase in our total assessed valuation. That's just the reassessment of existing property. We've pulled out personal, we've pulled out new construction, countywide improvements. Those are all over here. This is just looking at existing property in the increase year in these years, these reassessment years. And so you can see that something is quite a bit different this year than in the last 4 years. And so that 7.2%, which is the average of these four, is being compared this year to 0.4, 0.5%. So very, very different. It added $9.5 million in assessed valuation. You know, and back in 2021, we had $182 million added. Again, this is also in an environment by which we've learned that we're underassessed. So again, only $9.5 million, that's assessment, that's not revenue for us, that's the assessments was added this year. So something clearly different went on in the county in this reassessment year. So when you take the levy and you multiply it by those values that we have, this is where we stand with projecting our revenue. The blue bar will go to support increases in staff salary, the budget that you approve, the operating budget. The red bar there is what will go into debt. That is quite a bit bigger. That's the 30 cent. That's the result of those 30 cents, but we're just going to have more debt to pay when we sell the bonds, which will occur here in a couple months to support the Park Hill 2034 projects. And so this would be where we're looking right now. And again, we had estimated 3%, and this is reflecting right now 3.4%. So from a budget perspective, we prepared well. We're still a far cry from perhaps what it could have been or should have been based upon our understanding of the values of a property in Park Hill. So the next steps here would be we just wait and have the Board of Equalization do their work. They turn that into the county clerk. The clerk then notifies us, and then we'll have certified values. We then do the calculations about what the tax rates will be, what the debt service portion will be, what the operating will be. We need to send a notice out before the board meets that there is a public hearing scheduled for August 21. So that is a requirement that the community is notified that there's a hearing that will take place on the 21st. We're scheduled today to have that hearing on the 21st, and then we need to get the results of your vote to the county by August 30th so that we comply with that September 1st deadline.
And Dr. Kelly, before you move on from that slide, this is all process that would be completely expected, and what we would do in any given year is what you're seeing right there. As we talked about the potential under assessment and some of the things that are going on relative to the questioning of those pieces, we have, as superintendents across this county, talked, and we are working on and you know that we've sent a letter to the State Tax Commission last month. What we've learned is that there has been differing assessment values between districts across the county of Platte, and that's 5 different districts. We also learned that a couple of districts that are close to us are what Dr. Kelly mentioned. We are all in Platte County, where we have some districts that are actually straddling county lines, and learning that we have neighboring counties in Clay County that the average there in terms of assessment growth was around 11%. And the average in Buchanan County, which North Platte has some Buchanan County there, was in the double digits, as well as increases in assessment. So we're seeing some disparate pieces there, and so we have some questions around that. The State Tax Commission has set a date as August 23rd as their time to act, and they have the authority to be able to direct the county to make any sort of adjustments. We do not know where that is in the process right now, and if that impacts any of this timeline, we will certainly keep you updated relative to that so that we can meet our requirement to make sure that we set the tax rate by September 1st with all information possible. But I wanted to point that out relative to Dr. Kelly's presenting this as if this is exactly what happens and what we know at this time and the information we have.
So that timeline wouldn't adjust with the state tax commission's
The September
Deadline of-
1st
Yes.
deadline, not to my knowledge. They have signaled that they would want to try to do that work, understanding that counties have to set the tax rate by September 1st is what we've been told. So at this time, I have no information that would suggest that that's been extended in any way.
But that August 21st is just the date that we have chosen.
Correct. That
So
was
we
our-
can pick a date between the 21st.
That was
and
our
the 30th.
that's our regularly scheduled board meeting that we had approved back in April, well before any of this discussion has started taking place. We're keeping that particular regular board meeting on the calendar. And if we needed to, for any reason, have that tax hearing, we would post that in the appropriate time, make sure that we would get that done if we were expecting to see some change from the process in which we're at right now.
Does the tax hearing have to be in person?
Yes. Mr. Montes?
The tax rate is separate from the assessment because the tax rate is just what we've been saying we're going to do. We're going to set the same rate no matter what. It's what happens with the assessment. We can't affect what,
That's not necessarily true.
well, how is it? I don't see how it is.
Dr. Kelly,
Because
could you?
if they had assessed it with a 15% increase, we could have dropped our rate and only decided to charge our taxpayers the total that we need.
Yeah, so the typical process, and this would be no different, is that you do have to plug those numbers in. So we have to wait to get the final assessments before we can even recommend a rate. And in typical years, what would happen would be if the assessments had gone up, like in these years where it did go up by that, well, we did not receive 12.1% increase in revenue because in that case, the Hancock Amendment applied. And so we had to do the calculations and we wouldn't know how far to move it down until we get the assessments. So we need the assessments first to set the tax rate. And what Ms. Boland said too is true as well. So we can voluntarily roll back based upon a year that's perhaps larger than we anticipated. So
And we've done that in the
generally,
past.
we have. Particularly in debt service, we've done that.
Yeah.
Probably almost every year.
We don't
over the
have
last
any
decade.
flexibility to do that this year, so we're, with what they've given us, we're kind of backed into a corner, I would agree, but.
Dr. Kelly, so Proposition G, go over the quick numbers on what Proposition G raised, but now how much of that's basically getting taken away by, I guess, going from 5% to 3.4.
Yeah, I think each percentage might be about $2 million.
Okay.
So that's rough. But so you could say going from 5 to 3 would be $4 million perhaps in operating expenses. So that would be the impact from 5 to 3. But in the scenario by which it was 7, or 12, that's a significant, and that may have been something where the board would consider rolling it back and voluntarily doing that, because that it is unique this year for us because we did pass an increase that Hancock does not apply. So this state auditor would not have required us to roll it back because that was our first year of that tax rate. So if it had been 12%, well, then that is the potential for quite a bit more revenue than we anticipated, and may have been something where you would have perhaps shifted more of that into debt service, and to maybe try to address kind of getting our debt paid sooner so that we can perhaps pass phase 2 of Park Hill 2034 sooner, or maybe do it for no tax increase. So, yes.
I think this slide, to me, is why this scenario is particularly frustrating, because it wasn't like our taxpayers or our community was asking for less tax to pay. They approved this overwhelmingly. And I feel like the actions by the assessor are overturning the will of the voters.
We're not doing
Very
our job.
frustrating. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I know it was intimated that the assessor's office would go for a 0% assessment this year. The 0.48%, do we have any indication of what was reassessed or what the criteria was for the reassessment to trigger?
Yeah. All of what you said is questions that we have, which is we were led to believe that for various reasons, some of which didn't make maybe complete sense, that it was going to be 0. And so it does kind of beg the question of like, well, who or which properties were reassessed in Park Hill? And then as Dr. Kimbrell asked, why is it different in West Platte or Platte County R3? It's the same county. And so why is, the comparable number in Platte County, I think, was 3 or 4% or
Yeah, around
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
pushing
so,
4%.
10 times, our number. And how can that be, in terms of the property values being so much different? So there's a lot of questions, but we were led to believe that that would be next to 0. This does not reflect new construction or anything. This is just the reassessment of which we were led to believe it was.
Right, because our 3% conservative estimate that was presented to you was accounting for new construction and personal property, essentially, is what we were, it was like an even year type situation is what we were looking at.
As this progresses, as we learn more from the state and get some more information about what's going on here, is there a way for us to find out what criteria were used to trigger this 0.48% increase?
Yeah, I think we could make a sunshine request on that to see which the properties were reassessed and were not. I've not been through that process to do that specifically, but I think that's all public information. All this information is available on the Platte County GIS website anyway, so asking for it should be common.
Because we sunshined that report, that was from 23, right? Thinking of the one that
The
was
state report?
the state report.
Yeah, so that particular report was, if I remember right, if I'm getting the one that you were talking about, is from 23, in which it was indicating what were the actual increased values that were presented from Platte County to the state tax commission.
Right. Like what, I'd like to see what they submitted for 2025. And then do we need to sunshine emails and see if anyone's talking about this behind the scenes? This is just so bizarre that all of this kind of comes in at the last minute with no warning, with no official update from the assessor. It's super bizarre.
To Mr. Todd's point, I would be curious to see if there are certain areas that were targeted or whatever as far as assessments and why, if we could see that. But I don't know if we would go that far to sunshine and see all those, put it on a map.
I guess my question is, how does this affect us long-term? Like, I think that we need to just be honest with ourselves and with the public, like, our assessor made this decision, this is like without us, and knew that we passed this bond. So how does this affect us long-term, coming from like our salaries going to be stagnant? I mean, I just think that we need to like have some open conversations about how this will affect like programming, construction. I just think that do we have any idea of how those things may be affected going forward?
You know, the key things we did in preparation were make some decisions in which we are going to end this year, if we stay on track, we're going to end this year with quite a bit lower fund balances than we had originally thought. And then that has all kinds of impact in terms of what you can and can't do in future years. If, you know, pick the number that you think is being kind of cut from this, whether it be 4 million or more, you know, that's a compounding amount. And so you can look at some of the projects that you saw as you walk through and the impact of what $4 million can do in a building, an elementary school and so forth. So these are all decisions that as we prepare next year's budget and then look even beyond that, we're going to have to make some decisions. But we won't know, you know, we'll need to let some time pass a little bit just to see how we're going to land, you know, this year. And then, but of course, it's impossible to say. It's not going to impact some of these decisions about what salaries can be, what capital projects we can do, those things.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to set a calendar entry to have a hearing on Thursday, August 28th, after we get the information of what the state is going to do. If they're going to make changes to the assessment so that we won't have to raise the rates on everyone in our county without knowing, to Ms. Bowen's point, knowing that we didn't have to raise it 10 cents on our operating. We could have raised it less because that would be much better for everyone.
The scenario being that if the state tax commission comes in and says apply a 12% increase across the board, that you would want the ability to voluntarily
that
roll
was
back.
Ms. Bowen's point, so I agree.
I
We
understand.
should not raise taxes on everyone and more than we need to.
But the state tax commission could come back before the 21st.
Could, yes. We don't know the timeline on that. We know that they have given the county the date of August 23rd was their date that they communicated to the county relative to this topic.
But to get something on the board calendar, doesn't the board have to approve a meeting like that?
You would. We could do it on the 21st if we were not prepared to have that particular meeting at that time. If we went to that point in time and we were,
Okay.
you see what I'm saying?
Right.
If you
So
as a
then we
board,
could-
if you as a board at that time felt like you were not prepared because we didn't have any more additional information and you felt like at that time we're waiting to see if the state tax commission were to do anything in the next week or whatever that time frame is when we post, then you would be able to add an additional meeting that would be simply for the tax rate hearing, and we could do it that next week as close to the 1st as possible.
How much time do we have to give? What's the notice for the tax rate hearing?
10 days.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
as I was thinking that very thing,
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
I
you.
think we might want to pencil in an alternative date and not, I don't know about a vote or whatever, but that we could put in a public notice so that we're, say, basically keep the 21st, but then say something about an alternate date should information change or something. And so that might be, it may be wise to pick the 28th or.
Vote on that on the 11th?
21st.
Is that our
How many
next?
meetings do we have in August?
Yep.
We
Just
only have
one.
one.
Just the one.
That's the problem that we have that I think you've stumbled across right there.
So by the 18th, we would have to decide whether we have a meeting on the 28th.
I think you would do just one notice. I mean, this is such a strange situation, but one notice and be explicit in there that there may be two hearings or two hearing dates. One scheduled for the 21st and if needed, the 28th, or whatever date you all pick.
Okay. Do we need to vote on that,
Can we vote on that if it's?
or just provide
Not
you that
posted.
I
direction?
thought we just,
Yeah, it's a future agenda item. We can vote on that.
I believe that you could, Clay, yes, thank you.
There we go, thank you. The voice of reason.
Oh, I was just refreshing myself on board policy. So for a special meeting, our practice has been to set it with a vote, but the policy also allows for the president to call it, or for at least 4 members of the board to call it. So we don't necessarily, we have to give notice under the sunshine law sufficiently, but that's a much less time period. So if you deemed later, you'd have a little more flexibility on setting a special meeting if you wanted to, without taking a formal vote. You just obviously are thinking about public notice too, so.
Okay.
But we
So
can
maybe-
vote on that tonight if we wanted to add a meeting, even though it's not on the agenda.
Well, the president himself could
Just
add
call
the
a meeting,
I
so we don't
guess.
have to.
So on the 18th, the president, if he hasn't heard any information,
hopefully we will, but, yeah.
could do that, and then, but then we'll already have 10 days for, on the 11th, we'll have to have something in the paper about the first hearing, so. I think we leave it up to the president and the great staff
Well, I
to
would-
figure out the communication mechanism.
I understand that, but I would rather us agree on a date tonight, so we have a date
Oh, yeah.
that we're all available, especially when there's just 6 of us.
Clay, is it possible just to have consensus of the board of an agreed upon
Availability,
date through
yeah.
discussion?
Okay.
Okay, without a vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the president can still call
Right.
it and do it all. I just picked the 28th because it was a Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, a week later, yeah. And it's pretty close to the first. Yeah, that would be like a Monday.
And does it have to be done, the first is actually
Labor Day.
Labor Day?
That's what I was
Does it
wondering
have
if
to be
was
done then
pushing.
on the 29th?
Yeah. I mean, the county offices wouldn't be open
Right,
on,
so yeah.
so it would have to be done on the Friday.
But the board would have to meet in the morning on Friday, basically. And that can-
That's cutting it pretty close for
Yeah.
you all, isn't it? No?
We take it up there the next day.
Yeah.
Well, if we had the meeting at 7 a.m. on Friday, somebody.
You
could
could
run
still
up
do
there.
it.
Yeah.
So what are we,
You said the 28th.
the 28th?
I think, yeah, the 28th in the evening might probably work the best. I know, Ms. Barnes, you work.
That's fine. It's good.
You want Friday morning?
It's good. I'd rather have a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
But whatever the
Unless-
board decides overall.
So I don't think we need to vote because
Yeah.
you can just set a meeting.
Yep, I'll take action depending on how things unfold over the next.
And we're
Have to figure out the communications. by
pointing
the
toward
11th
the,
of what goes in
holding the
paper.
28th?
Yeah, to hold on calendar.
And I'm not sure I agree with that we could do one thing with alternates that seems unfair to certain, I just have questions about that I would want someone with a legal mind to really look at.
You're saying from a notice perspective?
Yeah.
Okay, we can look at that.
Oh, for the public, you mean?
Yes, it does not, it would be very confusing and I do not see that being,
Yeah, we need to be clear on that.
yeah, I see issues.
Could we add that language in there, like
Yeah,
2 meetings?
yeah,
and
we'll
we
work
just-
with the president on what that language would look like. We'll be as clear as we can. And we'll use council to make sure that we're doing that correctly. And I'm hearing that we would hold on your calendars the evening of August 28th. So, right.
That kind of works for me.
Any other questions or?
Oh, there was an article I read, and the Special Interim Committee on Property Tax Reform will hold 4 public hearings outside of Jeff City over the next 6 weeks. They all start at 5:30 p.m. On August 13th in the boardroom at Union Station. There is a public hearing
In Kansas City Union Station?
Yeah. At 5:30 p.m. The article is pretty interesting. It talked about the state tax commission, counties under assessing. So it's kind of the future of, and it kind of ties into that, reworking the funding formula. But, Missouri's by design is you fund your schools as much as possible from local funding. And then we know we're hearing about federal funding. So if we're getting, losing federal funding and then losing local funding, and then Missouri is also cutting money from the budget. So,
Well, and kind of piggybacking off of that, isn't it accurate that the decisions that the counties made has also cost the taxpayers funding from the state as well? That there's been some funds withheld from the state for the assessor's office?
Oh,
250.
yes, so there was some withholding based on not signing an MOU, which was indicated by the State Tax Commission of an intent or asking for the MOU for an intent to get the assessed valuations back into that 90 to 110% range. And the penalty, if you will, that the State Tax Commission had leveraged onto the county was to withhold certain funds from the assessor's office.
Thank you.
I don't know that I've watched MSBA recently. Have they given any guidance based on that special interim committee on property tax?
They have not. The committee that Mr. Terwilliger is referring to is also, it's similar, obviously, because it deals with property tax reform and the special committee that's been appointed to do that. However, that meeting in Kansas City is, I think, if I'm inferring correctly, you letting the board know that that's happening. I know that there's some happening after September 1st as well. So this is not going to solve, they're not going to create any direction or give any decision before September 1st that would help us in this direction. It's a,
No, I know. I just mean long-term.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are we
well,
approaching this
face.
problem? Because, I mean, it's, I don't know.
I believe this is what legislature and the governor are doing in terms of going around the state to listen to communities relative to this topic. And that's what those particular meetings are set up for.
Okay. But I guess I would like MSBA to weigh in because I think most people that are going to show up on there at those meetings are going to say, sure, let's cut property tax. I don't like paying taxes. Maybe not realizing that
The effect
that tax is what funds your local schools and,
communities.
yes, so.
Yeah, to this point, MSBA has not issued anything relative to that, but I can look into that.
they would probably be more focused on like the funding formula committee or task force.
Correct.
Yeah, I just
bigger
want talking
reason.
points about how we, or a talking campaign with legislators to say, that all sounds great, let's cut everybody's tax, but how are you gonna fund public education? Do you have a backup plan to do that?
Yeah, in that article, it was trying to do the thing where it
Yeah.
shows all viewpoints, and one of the viewpoints was just have schools funded by like sales tax, which is what I think somebody's reply was, in my county, there's two gas stations and a Subway. How am I going to fund my schools?
I'm laughing, but it's not funny.
Yeah, I know. No, it's yes. I completely get it. It's,
Certainly.
this is how we fund schools in Missouri. So, okay.
I'd be happy to get that information
Okay.
from, or at least if there is any information or where MSBA is relative to talking points or any other information that they would provide for boards for direction.
Thank you. And I'd be interested to get those dates put in maybe the Friday report so that we can just be aware.
The local date or all of them? The
ones-
statewide
Yeah,
ones?
all
Okay.
of them.
It was from
I
that
won't be able to go
article.
probably.
Yep, got
The
it.
Missouri
Yeah.
Independent article.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Kelly, as always.
Yes, thank you,
All right.
Dr. Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, information written items tonight. We have 9.1 through 9.4 are relative to bids, contracts, and agreements, and items 9.5 through 9.10 are relative to curriculum. Dr. Kimbrell, are there any items that need to be highlighted?
I have no additional information from your packet, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I just wanted to highlight the modern band curriculum. This is a new curriculum where you get to basically create a rock band or any kind of band, and you get to work on sound engineering, creating logos, flyers, and merch. So I just want to commend our staff for helping create this class that sounds really, really cool, and I wish I could have taken when I was back in high school. So, and I'll be on the lookout for some of the performances they do. So.
Get my merch shirt.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds really cool. So, okay. All right. The board will be asked to take action on these items August 21st or at the August 21st, 2025 regular meeting. Next, or lastly, board member requests and reports. Do we have any reports or requests tonight, Mr. Monson?
None, thank you.
Ms. Boland?
None, thank you.
Mr. Dodd?
None, thank you.
Mrs. Woodley?
I had a couple of questions or things that I wanted just to, I'll pass it on to Dr. Kimbrell with the program evaluation plans. And I noticed, first of all, kudos to our nutrition services team and all they do with making sure we have enough people staffed, being the variety of meals offered to our kids so that more kids are eating fruits and vegetables. That was just great to read. I did see that the district staff said, stop offering a la carte snacks. So I wanted to see what is the reason behind that. Is it because of other kids not being able to afford or whatever? Just question about that.
Okay.
And for the professional programs, I wanted to ask about the advisory committee. Like, how are the people selected to be on that committee to give advice about what's been going on?
Okay.
And that is it. Thank you.
I'll make sure I got that right. So that was professional studies
Studies.
on the advisory committee selection?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Thank you, Mrs. Woodley. Ms. Barnes?
None, thank you.
Okay. All right, then I'll need a motion and a second to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Chapter 610, Section 021 of the revised Missouri statutes for the purpose of discussing matters relevant to subsections 1, legal, and 3 and 13, personnel.
So moved.
Seconded.
I have a motion from Mr. Todd and a second by Ms. Boland to adjourn to closed session to discuss legal and personnel matters. Ms. Freeman, can you call the roll?
Barnes,
Yes.
Boland,
Yes.
Monsis,
Yes.
Terwilliger,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Woodley.
Yes.